So earlier today, I was reading an article by a journalist who was really triggered by Jason Isbell for talking about politics. And he was falling down into that rabbit hole that we hear so many times about how that people are just tired of hearing everybody's opinions. They just wish everybody would just shut up and sing. And I'm like, man, if your goal was to save country music, you sure wouldn't have tried back 40 or 50 years ago. Yeah, you would have had a really hard time with certain artists that now you like to set and praise. You love to walk around with your Johnny Cash middle finger shirt all day long. But what you don't realize is Johnny Cash would have pissed you off multiple times had you been around back then. Can you imagine if Johnny Cash came out today, and let's say that he had never been heard of, nobody knew his name, and he came out and he sang a song with the lyrics that said, I wear the black for the poor and the beaten down, living in the hopeless, hungry side of town, and I wear it for the prisoner who has long paid for his crime, but is there because he's a victim of the times. Can you imagine how Fox News would explode if they heard a country artist refer to a prisoner as a victim of the times? They would lose their mind. As a matter of fact, they did lose their minds back then. And people like Johnny Cash would have been called a libtard in those days. Johnny Cash made an entire album, The Trail of Tears, focusing on the plight of indigenous people. Imagine if an artist came out and did that today, what Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson would have to say about it. Willie Nelson would have pissed you off. Chris Christopherson would have pissed you off. Hell, even Merle Haggard, despite the fact that he did have patriotic songs for the working man, despite the fact that he did have some songs that, yes, they're problematic, he still wrote songs that would have pissed you off, and he stood up for things that would have pissed you off. He wrote the song Irma Jackson about an interracial relationship. That sure as hell wouldn't have went over. As a matter of fact, it didn't go over then. The record company didn't want him releasing it. Years later, he wrote a campaign song for Hillary Clinton. That kind of went over people's heads because they just couldn't believe that Merle did it. But for everybody that comes out with this idea, shut up and sing, be quiet, country singers have never been quiet. I mean, yes, some choose to stay out of the argument, but country singers have called each other out for years. So when one artist calls out another one, I don't know why that's suddenly a shock to people's system. I don't know why if one songwriter says another. I mean, Bob Dylan got pissed at Bobby Gentry for the song Ode to Billy Joe. He accused her of stealing it. Stuff like this has been happening for years. But you just didn't know about it because back then it was just the great music you grew up on. And you thought because you saw beards and long hairs and, American and Confederate flags flying here and there, you thought, oh, they're one of us. But dig a little deeper into their catalogs. Dig a little deeper into these classic country singers, these outlaws that you love to, you think that just because you go out and put some leather on a Telecaster and you sing with a deep baritone voice, oh, that guy's like Waylon, man. No, he's nothing like fucking Waylon. Those artists would have pissed you off so fiercely had they come out today. And all the great music that was made over the years was made by people who weren't afraid to speak up and speak out. And for everybody that says, oh, they should just leave it to the politicians, really? That's who you want to listen to? You want to sit and listen to Mitch McConnell? You want to sit and listen to a career politician like Mitch McConnell who's done nothing but drive Kentucky straight into the damn ground? That's who you want to listen to talk politics? You don't want to hear a creative dude over here who has looked into things and who has a different perspective on things? You don't want to listen to him. Oh, no, we can't listen to Isbell. He might say something that makes us mad. Let's go listen to Mitch. Yeah, well, that ain't been working out for you for the last fucking 41 years, has it? I tell you what, man, I want everybody to know that follows me and has been following me for a long time. For those of you who have been on board before all this blew up, I want you to know one thing. I am perfectly happier than hell over here where I'm at now because I don't have to filter myself for nobody. Used to if I was going to be driving to a show somewhere in southeast Kentucky, I might not have necessarily made this video. I might not necessarily have said certain things because, well, I'm fixing to walk into a room full of rednecks. I don't want to piss them off before I get there. But now I do not give a fuck if I piss any of you off. Because I would much rather die on this hill for what I believe than to stand there and shake your hand and you phony ass call me brother. Fuck that. No, I'm happy right here where I'm at. And I will defend someone like Jason Isbell to the end of time. And I don't give a shit if he likes me or not either. It's just the fact that he pisses you off, and you jump on the latest bandwagon. You wouldn't know music if it bit you on the ass. And if you're mad at Jason Isbell for his political beliefs, why don't you just go ahead and throw out your Johnny Cash albums while you're at it too? And take that stupid middle finger shirt off. I threw that thing in the garbage years ago.